In a small, peaceful village surrounded by thick forests and a river that shimmered like silver under the moonlight, there lived a young boy named Adam. The village was a place where stories were passed down from generation to generation, legends of spirits, ancient curses, and forgotten rituals. Among these tales was one that every villager knew by heart: never whistle at night. It wasn't a mere superstition. It was a law, an unbreakable commandment that no one dared to question. But Adam, filled with curiosity and a sense of adventure, was about to learn why this rule existed in the most terrifying way possible. Adam was an adventurous boy, always eager to explore the world beyond the village. He loved sneaking out at dusk to watch the fireflies dance near the river or to listen to the night birds sing their mysterious songs. Though he was warned countless times by his elders to be cautious after dark, Adam couldn't resist the beauty of the night. One evening, as Adam sat near the edge of the forest with his best friend, Ben, they overheard an old woman named Mrs. Kelly talking to a group of children. She was one of the oldest members of the village, and her stories were legendary. "Remember, my children," Mrs. Kelly said in her raspy voice, "never whistle at night. The spirits of the forest are always listening, and they don't like being disturbed. Whistle, and they will follow your call, then, they will come for you." The children gasped, and even Ben shivered. But Adam, sitting further back, smiled. "It's just an old woman's tale," he whispered to Ben. "Spirits and ghosts don't exist." Ben frowned. "Maybe not, but why take the risk? Besides, everyone in the village respects the rule." But Adam's curiosity burned hotter than his fear. He had heard the tale his entire life, but no one ever explained why whistling at night was so dangerous. What harm could a simple sound do? He decided that night he would break the rule and find out. That night, while everyone else was fast asleep, Adam sneaked out of his family's house. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the village. He walked to the edge of the forest, where the trees stood tall and silent, their branches swaying slightly in the breeze. It was eerily quiet, as though the night itself was holding its breath. Standing alone under the moonlight, Adam took a deep breath and pursed his lips. The sound of his first whistle was sharp and crisp, cutting through the silence like a knife. He waited, expecting something, anything, to happen. But nothing did. Feeling braver, he whistled again. This time, the sound echoed into the forest, bouncing off the trees like a ghostly melody. Adam chuckled to himself. "See? Nothing to be afraid of." But as he turned to head back to the village, something caught his ear, a sound, faint but unmistakable. It was another whistle, softer, but identical to the one he had just made. Adam froze. He hadn't imagined it. Someone, or something, had answered his call. He turned around, staring into the dark woods, but he saw nothing. The trees stood still, as silent as before. He shrugged it off and began walking again, but then, the sound came again, this time, closer. Adam's heart began to race. He quickened his pace, but the whistle followed him, growing louder with each step. It wasn't just a response, it was mimicking him, whistling the exact same tune he had. Panic set in as Adam started to run, his footsteps echoing through the village. But no matter how fast he ran, the whistling pursued him, closer and closer. By the time Adam reached the village square, he was out of breath, his heart pounding in his chest. He looked around, hoping to see someone, anyone. But the village was asleep, and no one stirred from their homes. He was alone. Suddenly, the whistling stopped. The air grew heavy, and a chilling silence fell over the village. Adam dared not move, his eyes darting nervously toward the forest. That's when he saw it. A shadow, tall and slender, emerged from the edge of the trees. It didn't walk or run. It glided, moving silently toward him. The moonlight revealed nothing of its face, only a dark, shifting form that seemed to flicker like a dying flame. Adam's breath caught in his throat. His legs felt like they were made of stone. The figure stopped just at the edge of the village, standing in the moonlit clearing. It said nothing, but Adam could feel its gaze on him, cold, piercing, and filled with malice. Without warning, it raised a long, thin arm and pointed directly at Adam. Adam stumbled back, falling to the ground as the figure let out a low, eerie whistle. It was the same sound Adam had made, but twisted, warped, like a melody from a nightmare. From that moment, everything became a blur. The village elders, awakened by Adam's terrified screams, rushed out of their homes to find him curled in a ball in the middle of the square, muttering incoherently. He kept whispering the same phrase over and over, "It followed me. It followed me." The next morning, Adam was bedridden, feverish and delirious. His mother wept by his side, while the village elders gathered to discuss what had happened. They knew the signs. Adam had broken the ancient rule, and now the forest spirits had marked him. Mrs. Kelly, her face grave, entered the house. "The spirits have been angered," she said softly. "He has called them, and they will not rest until they take him." Ben, who had been waiting outside the house, overheard Mrs. Kelly's words and rushed in. "Is there nothing we can do? Can't we save him?" Mrs. Kelly shook her head. "There is only one way to stop them. The boy must leave the village before nightfall. He must go deep into the forest and face the spirits alone. Only then will they decide his fate." Adam's parents were horrified, but they knew the old woman spoke the truth. The spirits were relentless once called upon, and they would bring ruin to the entire village if Adam stayed. By dusk, Adam, though weak and terrified, was taken to the edge of the forest. The villagers stood in silence, watching as he disappeared into the dark woods. The whistling had started again, faint but growing louder as the sun dipped below the horizon. Adam walked deeper into the forest, his heart racing with every step. The trees seemed to close in around him, their branches like long, skeletal fingers reaching for him. The whistling grew louder, until it was all around him, a deafening chorus of haunting melodies. Suddenly, the ground beneath him shifted, and Adam found himself standing in a clearing. There, in the center, stood the shadowy figure from the night before, its form flickering in the moonlight. Adam dropped to his knees. "Please," he whispered, "I didn't mean to disturb you." The figure didn't speak, but it raised its hand once more, pointing at him. The whistling stopped, replaced by a deep, rumbling sound that echoed through the forest like thunder. From the shadows, dozens of glowing eyes appeared, surrounding Adam in a circle. The spirits had come, and they were ready to claim him. Just as the spirits closed in, a voice echoed through the clearing, a voice that Adam recognized. It was Mrs. Kelly, standing at the edge of the trees, holding a small, wooden flute. She began to play a soft, soothing melody, and the spirits paused, their glowing eyes flickering. "The boy is young," Mrs. Kelly said, her voice calm but firm. "He broke the rule out of ignorance, not malice. Spare him, and he will leave this land forever." The spirits seemed to consider her words, their eerie forms wavering in the moonlight. Then, without a sound, they began to fade into the darkness, one by one, until only the shadowy figure remained. It stared at Adam for a long moment before finally turning away and vanishing into the trees. Adam was found the next morning by the river, weak but alive. The village welcomed him back, but he was never the same. His once curious nature had been replaced by a quiet wisdom. He knew now that some rules were meant to be followed, not questioned. From that day on, the villagers never had to remind their children about the danger of whistling at night. Adam's story became a warning, passed down from generation to generation, just like the tales of old. And though no one ever saw the shadowy figure again, every now and then, when the moon was full and the wind was still, a faint, haunting whistle could be heard echoing through the trees, a reminder that the spirits were always listening. Moral: some mysteries of the night are best left undisturbed, for not everything that answers your call will bring you peace.